Welcome to This Week in the SFL Season 22 Week 3 edition alongside Mike ONeal. I'm Cameron Irvine. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, Cam? Yeah, excited to break this week down with you.
And hopefully everybody can hear us okay at home. And it looks like we're sounding pretty even, pretty equal, so that's good to go as well. What a Week 3, Mike. Of course, this week had probably more discussion than any week in an SFL regular season in a long time. A lot of people talking about playbooks, a lot of people talking about progression and UDFAs and all that stuff. But once we got down to the football, it was back to, the great football that we've seen over the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it seems like we're back to business here, and it seems like there was a lot of close games. It felt like there's a lot of balance throughout the league, and it's just good football to watch.
We had some very oddball offensive performances. We're going to get into that tonight. We saw some incredible defensive performances, some big games, some close games. Let's get into the headlines of Week 3. Canton makes a statement. They hold Baltimore to not 100 yards, as it says in the graphic, 95, not even 100 of total offense in a shocking 30-7 triumph at home. The war on I-10 was just that, a war. Alamo City and Houston lost nearly all of their key pieces in a bloodbath, won by the Headhunters 10-7. Mike, we saw some rookies this week really step up. Jacksonville's Dot Williams, Bamsler also had a late pick to seal that victory for them. Minnesota's Jubilee Marsh was big, headlining some stellar rookie games. Marsh had a pick and a fumble recovery. How about a goal line winning stand for Denver? They topped Louisiana 4 times inside the 5 to help hold on to a narrow 10-3 win. And, Mike, we've got some teams falling fast. Portland, Motor City, LA, Carolina, Charleston, all winless and still searching. Of these 5 headlines, what grips you in Week 3, Mike?
Oh, I think so for one, every single one of these headlines really has a case, to be the most exciting, but I think that it's got to be Canton, right? I can't remember the last time Baltimore has looked like that, if they've ever looked like that. So it's got to be Canton for me. I went into Gen Chat after the game and I straight up said it. I said, all right, Canton, you made a believer out of me. You guys might have one of the best defenses the SFL's ever seen this season.
Yeah, they were as impressive as you can be in a moment like that. Taking on Baltimore is their first win against the Baltimore Vultures, and it couldn't have come at a better time. So all that happened in Week 3, but first we have to start with last night, which haven't gotten your thoughts on yet, Mike. So it could be interesting to see what you think about it. Carolina and DC starts off our highlights, and in the opening minute, Carolina, Matt South going to Vince DeSantis for the touchdown. What a shocker. The tight end gets free and gets open, and Carolina takes a 7-0 lead. The 0-2 Skyhawks, the 2-0 Dragons. Carolina on the road trying to pull an upset. Shabazz Synergy says, I can do that too. Mason Kirby, what an off-season pickup for the Dragons. Wearing those way back throwbacks, Mike. Season 5 stuff. 3rd down and goal. Shabazz Synergy over the middle. Lyric Da Vinci drops it. You see it on the graphic there at the time. 2 for 8, 0 for 6 to anybody, not Kirby, but Lyric Da Vinci would have his moments in the sun. Look at that pass. In between 2 defenders to Mason Kirby later on in the second quarter. DC takes a 10-7 lead. And then 3rd and goal inside the 5-yard line. This started the collapse of Carolina. Just mistake after mistake after mistake in this game. Saeed Gore with the pick, and then 52 seconds later, Mike, right at the end of the half, what the heck happened? Carolina fell asleep.
Yeah, right at the I don't know how you allow this to happen. That's just a blown coverage by the safety. How do you let this happen with time expiring? You have one job in this situation, and that's prevent, right?
So Carolina throws that interception in the end zone. Hey, how about another? Wow, what a great play on the outside. Jadoobie Doo a draft pick from last season, gets the interception for DC. We flash forward to the fourth quarter, still same score. Ibari Amon Eaglin taking his team out of the depth. Look at the blocking. Look at him go. The big man's not going to catch him. That's a pick six for Carolina. And despite giving up that touchdown late in the half, despite 2 red zone interceptions, Carolina is only down 3. Still down 3. Matt South trying to get a first down, and John DeSantis wraps him up in the open field. That was critical because that forced a field goal. Now tied at 17. Shabazz Synergy, he's going to run for the first down, and he's going to get it. Waited until we got past the first down marker to slide for the first after not doing so earlier in the game. Here's another opportunity for Carolina to get off the field in a tie game outside of field goal range. Kevin Say, look at the blocking. First down for the Dragons. There is a reason why DC is not lost. And in the final seconds, Lyric Da Vinci again makes the play, scores touchdowns before the end of the first and second half to put DC up 24-17. Dragons for life indeed. 1 second left. Matt South in a familiar position, Mike. All too familiar position, down a score, trying to make a play late in the game. That pass is incomplete, and DC holds on for the win. This game was so back and forth, so crazy. We didn't even show all of the back and forth mistakes. It almost felt like nobody wanted to win this one, but DC did in the end. Your thoughts?
It's just a day late and a dollar short for Carolina's offense. You know, Carolina's defense really did a good job keeping them in the game, but Carolina's offense started out, hot with that big play to DeSantis, and then after that, just really couldn't find the wheels. And it's unfortunate, because I think Carolina's defense really is stout, and I think they're a good looking defense, but they've got to figure some things out offensively. They've got to figure out their rhythm. They've got to get Ike McBride, a little bit more involved on the ground game. And I think we've talked about this earlier off camera. You and I talked about how important the balance is between the run and the pass game. Teams that don't get the run game going are going to struggle.
Here's the good news for Carolina. They had over 300 yards of offense in a week in the SFL when offenses were struggling even to get 200 yards. So that's the good news. The most bizarre stat of this whole game is that DC had over 500 yards of offense. That is best in the SFL this week this season in any individual game, and they still only scored 24 points. So your defense, even though you gave up yards, you weren't giving up a lot of points, and unfortunately, just in critical moments, that defense broke down. And Lyric Da Vinci was able to get in the end zone. The DC Dragons.
What they call bend but not break.
That's right. The DC Dragons are 3-0. Canton is 3-0. That North Division is looking pretty spicy. Queen City was on a bye this week, and the Corsairs have their home opener in their brand new remodeled stadium that no one has seen except here at league headquarters. They host Indy this upcoming Friday. Can't wait for that one as well to see how Queen City can compete in that North Division. Back to the highlights now. This was an incredible game in Houston. The war on I-10. This pass tipped off the stomach of Garrison Blue. If you thought that Brandon Ayuk's catch was amazing, how about that one from Brady Clark as Houston takes over? But then on the next possession, Dave Burr is picked off by Jay Mart. One-handed. He's a linebacker, Mike. He leads the league in interceptions with 4, and he didn't even finish this game. He got hurt. Another look at this one.
Yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. I was saying in the chat in this exact moment that Jay Mart is the best coverage linebacker in the SFL. I think that's undeniable. He had 2 picks against Dunhill, I believe. Had 2 picks in this game. Unbelievable. I mean, you can't get any better than that at the linebacker position.
So Jay Mart gets it back for Alamo City, still scoreless. Look, a toss pitch out of shotgun, and Brad Jones scores. That was a genius play call there by Alamo City. 7-0 late in the first quarter. The Artillery have the momentum. Both teams trying to get to 3-0. Dave Burr back the other way. Pass picked off Jay Mart. His second of the game, as mentioned. He leads the SFL with 4 in 3 games. Toss play on 3rd down and goal. Josh Slapp. Bam. Nothing. GP Wells was hurt in this game. Josh Slapp got the majority of the carries but couldn't get in the end zone that time. 7-3. Artillery still up. Mossing there from DR Sim. That was a ridiculous catch. One of the best of the weekend. Now 3rd down and goal inside, a minute to go. Look at this play call. Nobody covers Tiberius Bovine. Houston takes a 10-7 lead, and then all hell broke loose in the second half, Mike, starting with this play. Sack out of field goal range with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter, so Alamo City got nada, and they had to kick it away. There was about 5 different headhunters getting credit for that 1/5 of a sack. Now late in the third, still 10-7. Ace Fennick drops back to pass. Guy Incognito, another underrated pickup from this free agency period, and Houston gets the ball back, still 10-7. 6:10 to go. Toss play. Out to, oh no, it's a third stringer in, and Bogey Bar picks it up, returns it all the way to the Alamos, or the Houston 15, and you think, Mike, okay, now Alamo City is going to take charge of this game, and then the next play happened, but we get another look at this. Hey, a third stringer getting carries, that's never a good thing. Injuries were a big storyline this week.
They are a huge storyline, and way to capitalize for Alamo City's defense there.
So, here we go. Next play, Ace Fennick lines up on the Houston 14-yard line, gets crushed from behind and throws a pick. Prime time. Blake Prine with the pick, and then Ace Fennick is hurt. And guess what, Mike? Alamo City didn't even get the ball back. 6-minute drive, ended the game. I don't want anyone to tell me that doesn't happen in real life. Kansas City had a 9-minute 42-yard or 42-second drive this week in the AFC Championship game. So Houston, 6-minute drive, burns the clock. Alamo City loses 10-7, loses arguably their best offensive and defensive player in the game. Houston lost the league's leading rusher, and they still held on to win in a scoreless second half. Where do you want to start with this one? What a doozy.
Couple points on this one. Couple points. Number one, I said it at the end of week 1 after San Diego lost to Houston, that Guy Cognito, that Houston secondary is going to be elite this season. So far, they've proven to be exactly just that. Number 2, this is what's different. I was actually talking with Damon, head coach of Houston, earlier this week or a couple days ago, I believe, and we were talking about Houston. I think this is the difference between the Houston Headhunters now and the past few seasons. Houston Headhunters now don't allow teams to capitalize off of mistakes. And I think that's what's different about this Headhunters team this season. Their defense is playing lights out. Their offense is doing just enough. Josh Slapp did just enough in that game. I think, if you're a veteran player, maybe you get that touchdown in the red zone where Josh Slapp tried to spin. I think a veteran player makes that touchdown. Josh Slapp still has a lot to learn and a lot of room to grow. Excellent job so far. But Houston really, really on the right path. For ACA, honestly, Cam, still in my top 5. Still in my top 5 teams. They are a strong team. They just happen to be playing a much improved Houston team. And listen, like they said in the broadcast, the South has always been the division that they just beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah. And Louisiana is a part of that. And next Monday night, we have Mexico City and Louisiana for the first time in the South Division. Gerald Smith and Mike Daggs are going to have a live cam that will be part of the broadcast. Man. I've heard confetti may be involved. I have no idea what they're going to do, but that's going to be
bets. We need a live air bet.
We do. We got to get somebody on the phone. Fort Worth and Florida coming up a little bit later tonight. That's a big game. Kind of a weird schedule quirk, Mike. Florida has not played since opening night. 17 days it has been since they last played. And Fort Worth has not played on a Saturday or a Sunday either. They played last Friday, so they have had an extended time off too. So two good teams that we haven't seen much of over the last couple of weeks getting going in about 45 minutes. But for now, back to the highlights. And now we go back to Friday in Minnesota, where Colin Hart got things moving early against the Mexico City Aztecs. Minnesota playing in their home opener, retiring the number of Daniel Wright, number 34, now in the rafters there. Hart gets the touchdown. He also gets over 15,000 yards. Dan Tritz gets a brutal sack as we fast forward to the third quarter, 13-6. This game was very defensive until right about this point in the game when things started to get a little bit explosive. This, off that sack from Dan Tritz, is a sack for Meerkat all the way down the sideline. Van Dam brings down Derrick, and Minnesota's set up in good field position at the Mexico City 33-yard line, now up 1 score. Toss play, Quag Mam. Nice little wrinkle there out of the Minnesota offense. More from Quag later. 1st and 10, Minnesota, as it comes down to the third quarter. There's a look at the rushing yards. Williams going to get this carry and a first down. You were going to say something about this run game, Mike.
No, I was gonna say something about their uniforms, but the run game, I mean, that was a great wrinkle though for Quag Man.
And hey, look, T. DeQueen in the end zone. That was 3rd and goal, Mike. Sometimes you just trust your top receiver to go up and get a ball, and that's what Johnny Reno did on this play.
She's been excellent this season.
Yeah, she had a career high last week, and then a little bit quiet in this one, but still made some impacts. There's one more look at that play. I mean, it's just so many bodies around her. She's still able to get up and get it. So 20-6, Minnesota on top of Mexico City. Jordan Sipe looking to strike back. Cleanest pocket you can have, and look at that. That is a tight window to Noe Terrazas. Touchdown, Mexico City. They're not done. 20-13 with under 6 minutes to play. They kick it deep and try and play some defense. Teammates happy for Terrazas. 5:15 to go. Mexico City does get that stop, so Minnesota punts it away. But Mexico City on the other end of this return. Deep kick, a lot of room to run. It's a fumble. Recovered Jubilee Marsh, who had a pick at the end of the first half. Recovers the fumble. The rookie makes the play. Minnesota gets it back. Mexico City cannot believe it. Johnny Reno's like, look, I get to play again. Another look at it.
Just an excellent play. Heads up play, right? That's such a rare thing for rookies, but rookies already making a splash in the SFL this week.
Quag Mam toss touchdown. What a brilliant call there with from 1 yard out. Mam scores 27-13, and yes, people in the crowd shirtless in St. Paul, you are a legend. So Mexico City gets a touchdown late, but Minnesota wins 27-20. So both teams now 1-1 to start the season. Mexico City's played 2 close ones. Minnesota showed some life in their loss against Fort Worth. How do you feel about these 2 teams?
I mean, listen, Mexico City I think is much improved. I think that they really have, kind of been finding their footing. I think there's a little bit of offensive woes in that game. Minnesota really kind of bouncing back and kind of getting the rhythm going. I think it's a long season. I think both of these teams haven't hit their stride yet. I would say, it's looking like it's going to be closer to midseason for both these teams to start finding their footing. I think for everybody, honestly, I think that, we've had such a different just diversity in play calling this season, and it's been a little slow start. I think we're starting to see that unfold after 3 weeks for sure.
Well, next up, Mike, to the ladies. Wow! Ashley Jackson sat down with T. DeQueen on this week's PGI.
Thank you, Cam. And I just want to say that I know that you and I have had our ice cream battles, but I just want to let you know that vanilla still wins all day. I don't care what you say. Okay. Love you, Cam. And we are back with PGI. And I have my good friend here with me, Miss T, the Queen, over from the Minnesota Legends that had a fantastic game. How are you, lady?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you made it. I know you like, what is going on? He'll explain it later.
Right.
But you had a fantastic game. You all did over Mexico City Aztecs. I'm not sure what the pick'ems were, but I would imagine that, from the tenure of Mexico City, that probably leaned a little bit more so in their favor. But you had 2 wonderful touchdowns that helped set your team pretty much above like that bar of them even being able to come back. So tell me, what are your thoughts on this game, T?
Well, I only had 1 touchdown.
Oh,
yeah. I only had 1. Quag Mam had another. Yeah. And they said my name, but it was him. Yeah.
Got it.
So I had 1 this game, 1 last week. So,
well, hey, 2 on the season.
Right.
There you go.
There we go. So, it was an awesome game. I mean, Mexico City gave us a fight, especially there at the end. It was a nail biter that offside kick, because that was like at like a minute or like a minute and a half or something like that. Oh my God. I'm over there. Don't you, you better get it. You better get it.
Oh, see, that's what you pay for, though. That's the emotional content,
It was awesome. It was awesome. And I mean, because the whole thing could have changed if Mexico City would have gotten that offside kick. They had a 50-50 chance of tying it up or going for that extra point and winning the whole thing. So even thinking about it gets me going.
And see, that's the good thing about this league. We get a chance to hear our names called on the field and make these major plays that have real impacts, and we get caught in these situations that can make or break that game, and you guys just came out on top in that one. But tell me about your individual players' performance. What do you think of T's performance on the field?
But let me say, my player is a well-rounded player. I mean, I feel just, that you put her out there, coach says, you do this, and she's going to do it. Minnesota has really showcased me, these 2 games, and I am so thankful for them. They're just awesome.
Indeed, and that means a lot when you are involved on the field, when you are able to make those plays and set your team up for success. And so congratulations. Thanks. Really, really happy to see you do that, T.
Thanks. It's just awesome. Let me tell you, Minnesota is great. The locker room is great. The people are great. They're so welcoming. They're so funny. I mean, if you want to chuckle for the day, just go into the locker room. You'll get it. It's great. I love them. I love them all.
That's that whole family away from family dynamic. Yes, that's very important.
Yes. And
one of the reasons why a lot of us are here. So
right. And it truly is a team. We work as a team. This win was definitely a team win. We all was involved, and I loved it.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to see that you're having a good time in doing this. When you have couples that are in the league, especially when they're on opposing teams, that also brings that good vibe, that good energy, that you have two different schedules to keep up with and games to watch, and so good. I wish you and Doug the best for the rest of the season.
You too. You too. Arizona, go get them. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. We're gonna do our best. That's all we can do. At the end of the day, none of us know how this is gonna end. We can just hope that it ends in our favor. So thank you so much, T.
Thanks.
Good luck next week.
Thank you too.
All right, bye. Back to you in the booth.
Thank you, Ashley. And I gotta say something before we move on to the show. I know that I am not a vanilla guy. She's calling me out on the ice cream, saying vanilla's the best and all this other stuff. But I will admit, I do have some Bluebell vanilla bean in that freezer. So I can be a little diverse. It doesn't always have to be like chocolate mint swirl.
Sometimes
brownie.
You want to call an audible, right? Like you just that's it.
Sometimes good old ice cream sundae is good. Huge thanks to Ashley Jackson for helping to as always provide us a little bit of a different spin on the show, and T the Queen for joining her this week. I love that T has been able to find a home in a place that maybe she would have never even looked for in the first place. I mean, her husband owns Seattle, and she wanted to go someplace different and experience something different, and she loves it. It's to anybody out there that thinks, I would only fit in here. You don't know until you really branch out of your shell.
I think it's fair to say that every team provides a different league experience. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes sometimes the culture might not be the culture for you. You'd be surprised how much just a different team atmosphere could change everything.
Well, here's a culture that may be growing after this win this week. That would be Denver. Denver hosting Louisiana, and we start off in their new ice blue uniforms that they debuted,
so
and
nice.
Bailey O'Shaughnessy is out the back door as Denver up 3-0 gets into scoring position. There's the updated stats, 167-59 at this point. Ace Ketchum gets a carry there, but is stuffed in the backfield. Louisiana had over 10 tackles for loss in this game to keep them in it. So on 2nd down and 12, the next play, Denver sends Jeremy Mosley, who's been awesome, in motion. And at the end of this play, Gene Struthers is going to find Logan Keel. Bam! Right there. In tight coverage, Denver goes up 10-0. Now, handoff. Oh, look out. Another third stringer in for an injured running back. Dwayne Salmons got hurt. Second play of this game. Levy Lease recovers the fumble and helps Louisiana get a field goal. Flash forward to the end of the third. 10-3. 33-yarder. Doink. Hey, you know what? You need a kicker. You need a kicker, Mike, if you're going to have success in this league. So 33-yard field goal missed. Still 10-3. Still 10-3. 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Are you kidding me? Is this about to happen again? Denver on the punt return. Fumble! Louisiana recovers with under 6 to play. Wild 2 muffed punts in the SFL this week. And Louisiana, at this point, it felt like they were about to take this game from the Nightwings.
Yeah, it really seemed like it. I mean, kudos to Louisiana's defense for really turning it on the second half. And it felt like Louisiana was really turning the corner here. It's always hard whenever you lose a star player like Dwayne Salmons, but you got to figure things out.
So on the 20-yard line, Tommy Utah down a touchdown, finds Reggio De Niro. Nice pass to the 5. 1st and goal at the 5, but Louisiana, 2 straight runs, couldn't punch it in. So 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line. Remember, Salmons is hurt. They send Collier, the fullback, in motion instead of handing it off to him. Not a lot of carries so far this season. Kind of surprising. So they give it to the back. Dive. Boom! Stopped right at the line of scrimmage. What a play by Luis Quintana. So 4th and goal. Now Louisiana, 4 minutes to go. They give it to Chris Grant Jr. Boom! Stopped again. Quintana got everybody there. Denver with a goal line stop, and they win the game. 10-3. Louisiana couldn't do anything after that. A defensive slugfest, but this was about Louisiana losing by far their best player, their highest paid player, and then trying to find some offense without it. Denver didn't do much in the second half. O'Shaughnessy did have over 100 yards. But the Nightwings are 2-1, and they get a scrappy 10-3 win. It doesn't matter if they're pretty or ugly, Mike. It just matters that it's a dub.
That's it. Yeah, it doesn't matter how you do it. It just matters that you do. And Denver now sitting 2-1 and really, in a good place. I mean, kudos again. I say it. I probably seem like it might seem like Stephon Forge and Denver pay me, but they don't. I think Stephon Forge does a great job, especially for how limited that roster is. They do a good job. I think that they could have done a better job, right? But you can't ask for much more out of your defense than a goal line stance like that. I mean, that's got to show you a little glimpse of what the atmosphere has to be in Denver. I mean, if I were on Denver, I would be fired up in that locker room right now because there's a lot to look forward to, especially against Louisiana team that I think that a lot of people have high expectations for this season.
Absolutely. So, both offenses, even though it was a 10-3 ball game, both offenses moved the ball just fine.
Yeah.
Not every
That's
team.
been a trend this season. That's been a trend this season. Getting into the red zone or getting into the end zone has been a trend.
It's getting into the red zone and then having to settle for it's tough to score, or it's tougher to score because it's just tougher to win, right? And that's what we all want. Speaking of tough, Mike, there was some tough offensive performances this week, and I'm not talking about strength. I'm talking about tough to watch. I guess our graphical pop up anyway. How was your week, Mike? While we're waiting on it to come.
It's good. It's good. I'm just praying the curtain behind me doesn't fall, so you guys can't see the middle of the move that we're in.
That would be crazy. There we go. There it is. Baltimore and Canton, 30-7. This game was not just a blowout. This game was, in some ways, just a shocker. 95 yards of offense. I don't know. The SFL has had 2,300 plus games, so it would be really hard to find that stat. But I don't know that I've ever seen a box score with 95 total yards of offense. Maybe like way back in season 1 or something, but 95 yards is just not going to get it done. The time of possession was crazy. And the rushing yards, Baltimore 38 rushing yards. I mean, it doesn't matter what Canton did on the ground in this type of conversation, because 38 rushing yards is all about their defense, which has given up 13 points in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been impressive. And I think the most impressive part about it, Cam, is the fact that they've shown 3 different types of looks and 3 different types of styles of play on defense. Like they haven't given anybody film for the first 3 weeks. They've changed it up every single week, which tells me it's more about the personnel than it is about the particular plays. And it really has been, they've done a phenomenal job. I can't remember ever seeing Baltimore look like this. And I think, just let me make it clear that I think that this is more speaking on, I think this result is more speaking on Canton's defense and the quality of Canton's defense than it says about Baltimore.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Ivory Irvin, 3 catches on 9 targets. When does that ever happen? And
we saw him dropping passes all night.
But he was getting hit too. I mean, Canton was the more physical team in this game. Yeah. That's what got him the win. Robert Johnson and Logan Lee became the first running back duo to each rush for over 100 yards in a game this season, and they were both excellent. Canton does have one issue, and that is the pass game, which had 6 completions and 2 interceptions. There's going to be a time where they need more out of this passing attack, but so far so good for Canton. They have Vancouver next week at Vancouver. Talk about a team that's ticked off, that wants to show Canton they are not the 40-0 team that played in the wild card round.
Yeah, I think this is going to be game of the week material because Vancouver has debatably the most prolific scouts in the league. They're really good. Their scout room is really, really, really good at what they do. And I think that, there's only so much that you can keep changing things up on film before you have to go back to something eventually. Mm-hmm. I think Vancouver's got about 3 weeks of data on Canton now. It should be interesting to see what game number 4 looks like.
I thought the most curious thing about Canton's approach was they blitzed a lot early in the ball game, but then they didn't, and they still were just as effective against Baltimore defensively. I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, Atlanta and Los Angeles. This game was 21-20 at the half, and then Atlanta scored 28 unanswered points to start the second half. 479 yards of offense. BDG Hollywood had a 59-yard touchdown run. That is the longest run of the season. 10 of 12 on third down. Did you know, Mike, LA did not convert a third down in the second half? Didn't convert one. 5 red zone trips, 5 touchdowns. Atlanta is 2-1.
That is unbelievable. Atlanta really turned the Jets on, and this is an LA team that started off in week 1. Everybody was like, wow, LA, they look like they've figured some things out, and it's been tough sledding for the past 2 weeks. And unfortunately, the second time that they've had 40 points or more put up on them in 2 weeks in a row. So it is, rough place, if you're an LA fan, but for Atlanta, I mean, talk about that 5 red zone trips, 5 red zone touchdowns. The efficiency, unbelievable. 10 out of 12 third downs. I mean, you can't ask for more. Yeah, that's difficult in the SFL. You can't ask for more out of your offense. And I thought that they had it all. I mean, you have to have it all to be able to put over 400 yards of total yards on the board.
Now, they did catch a break. It's kind of an optical illusion. Talon Steele had this crazy touchdown in the corner, and it did not look like he got both feet in. I was looking at that play a long time here from SFL HQ, and it was almost like an optical illusion where it looked like maybe he tapped the second foot, but because of the camera angle, maybe the foot was off the ground. I don't know if it was because the funky end zone designs in Atlanta, because there's so much going on, the literal hive in Atlanta, or what. But still, huge credit to him getting that completion late in the game. But that was wild. It was just Atlanta's
Cam, fun
night.
fact before we move on. I see Brett in the chat brought up that Sully Richardson going 5 for 21 in the second half in passing.
Yeah.
Talk about defense. I mean, it's not just offense for Atlanta. That's pretty impressive.
And those are adjustments, because Sully Richardson had a great first half, as did Chris Lee, who we'll talk about a little bit more later in the show when we go over our top 5 receivers through the first 3 weeks of the season. But also this week, we had another offensive letdown in Portland. Your Mavericks, who have not had a highlight 3 weeks straight because y'all haven't played a close game. You haven't had to raise your blood pressure or anything like that this season. It's either been a big win or a big loss. In the case of this week, it was a big win. 7 first downs for Portland, 114 total yards of offense, 48 passing yards, and 39 offensive plays. I mean, Portland just was not on the field. It was important for San Diego to establish the run this week. You didn't blow anybody away like 258 in Canton or Atlanta, but it was enough, and San Diego coasted. They're 1-2 now.
Yeah, I mean, we did just enough. I think that, anytime you can get one or more backs, I think you can get over 100 on the ground. It's enough to keep the defense honest, and I think that's what we did. Talking about Portland, man, I think that Portland, they have the personnel, they have the talent, they have what it takes to be able to get that clicking. This is not indicative of Portland's talent whatsoever. I think this more so speaks to just they've got to figure out how to apply their players, like take the scheme that they have, put it into works, like put their scheme into a playbook and really run with what they have. They've got some really good pieces over there. Ezekiel Love is debatably one of the best running backs the SFL's ever seen. And you've got to get him involved. You've got to get him, find ways to get him, active and find ways to make it happen. They've got a good offensive line too. There's no excuse for this type of production. I think Portland really has to, go and do some soul searching on this offense because the fans deserve better. They've got a better lineup than this on their roster.
Listen, Mike, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And there are some teams in the SFL that are going a little insane right now. It's the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. But it doesn't mean that you can't turn it around. It doesn't mean you can't turn a season around. It just means that maybe, just maybe, there's another way to win out there. And right now, Portland needs to find how to get the most out of their run game because that's what they're good at. And if you're not getting production in the way that you are best built to win games, there's no way you're going to win games. So, the Louisiana was in the same boat after week 1. They couldn't get any production out of their run game, and that is their strength. They got it.
We saw week 2.
And then week 2, they exploded, right? And they won the game because running is their strength. For Canton, running is their strength. But for other teams in the league, passing is their strength. It's a very balanced league right now. But whoever is getting the most out of their strength has so far found more victories than not. All right, back to the highlights. After all those blowouts, let's get to some more juicy action. Tulsa at Motor City. Whoops. Michael Brown, you don't play for that team anymore. Nicholas Warner, pick 6. And Michael Brown's like, okay, all right, my bad. Next drive, he threw another one to Nicholas Warner. Then he was like, okay, for real, I got it. You know why? Because I have Gabriel Manning. And Michael Brown to Gabriel Manning, he just does the rest. Ridiculous. Touchdown, Gabriel Manning. He leads the league in receiving yards, over 200 a game. They've only played 2 games, but still, 10-7. Hey, look who it is. Got him again. Gabriel Manning in the back of the end zone, 14-10 Tulsa at this point. He owned the V8s in the first half. Not so much the second half. Huge credit to Motor City's defense. They locked him down and held him under 200 yards after it looked like he was going to go for 3. Early in the third quarter, same score. Michael Brown drops to pass, and there he is again. Gabriel Manning. I was maybe just a little bit early on them containing him. After that, it was gone. Deion James, the rookie, getting in the end zone. Touchdown, Tulsa, 21-10. It was the first of 2 for the young. Look at his teammates. Look how happy they are for him. Motor City would not go away. 3rd down and goal, 21-10. Christopher Dean, touchdown. That is the Motor City offense in the end zone. 2:16 to go in the third quarter. Dean loves it. It's a 4-point game again. Now 28-17. King Jackson, what a dime to Julian Gusters. That's the best pass strength in the league. Gusters in the back of the end zone makes it 28-24. Phoenix Jones got hurt early in the game, comes back in, makes plays like that, and still leads the league in rushing yards per game. Now King Jackson dropping to throw on 4th down, and they could not make the play. Mihata down the field, couldn't get it done. 38-24. Tulsa would add a touchdown and get the win. The Desperados are 2-0. So right now, Mike, we got to break out the for real meter. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to tell me how for real these teams are. Let's start with Tulsa.
Tulsa, I give us 7.
Okay.
I give a 7. You know, like higher than, you know, the average, right? But not an 8 or 9 or 10. Just, you know, just high enough. Because the thing is, right now, it seems like their success moving the ball all the way into the red zone relies solely on Gabriel Manning. And I think that teams will catch on to that. And I think teams will start, you know, putting, you know, their best players in shading and really clouding over the top of Manning and really trying to shut him down. Now, obviously, he's an explosive player, so only so much you can do that. But I think that Tulsa needs to get some of these other receivers involved. They've got to get, you know, they've got to be able to spread the ball out. Otherwise, I think Michael Brown really he's gonna plateau and maybe even fall off once teams catch on. I'll give him
a 7 for a different reason. I actually think that Phoenix Jones is an upgrade over Douglas Brown. He has been running really well. Deion James is too. But Tulsa's only played 2 games, and they played 2 teams with a combined record of 0-6. I just want to see more out of Tulsa. It doesn't mean that they're not for real, but I need to see them play somebody good. I believe they have Seattle next week.
That'll be interesting.
That will be interesting. Okay, Canton. What is your for real meter?
10. 110%. I think that there's no way that you can play at the level of just excellence that Canton has through 3 weeks. And it doesn't matter, right? So, like, the big thing was week 1 and week 2, you know, nobody crazy as far as the talent level that they were facing. Week 3, you face Baltimore. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter home or away, where you are. Baltimore will always be Baltimore. And they're always good. They're always ready. So, I mean, Baltimore comes into Canton and nobody was expecting less than 100 total yards. For Jack Wigmore, Mac Chima, Ivory Irvin, like, come on. You can't. That's a hard offense to shut down. They shut him down completely. Canton is a 10 as far as the for real meter. They just have it all right now. I will say that 10 can go to a 5 real quickly if they don't figure something out on offense, if they don't figure out the pass game.
I got to go with a 9 there, Mike, because I just think that they are so run dependent. They're so good at it. Now, let's say that. But Bill Cherry, Robert Johnson, Logan Lee, they are so run focused that if a team is able to, you know, if they have the personnel to clamp down on the outside and force Canton into 3rd and long situations, it could get ugly. I just need to see a little bit more. I have not seen a complete game yet out of Canton. Let's put it that way. And I'm looking for that because we didn't see much. I mean, 6 completions. If he wouldn't have had the 2 picks, it would have been fine. But he had the 2 picks, and it just made the day look not as good. The Houston Headhunters, your for real meter.
I give them a 9. I think that they're up there. That's another one that, again, we played them week 1. And, you know, I think anybody in week 1 is always a coin flip, right? So you've got to see a couple weeks. I think you've got to see at least 3 weeks before you can start really making, you know, assumptions or, you know, predictions. But Houston really has shown up when it mattered. ACA has always been known as the team that can really just grind it out, and they're not going to win by a huge margin. Sometimes they do, but they're always a team to be able to finish. They've been known to finish games, right? For Houston to make a stand after that big turnover and to turn the ball right back around and get the ball back, for their defense to get the ball back from ACA that very next play or the very next drive, unbelievable. Like, that shows the maturity in this Headhunters team. Like I was saying, I think I give it a 9 because that 1-2 duo I think is my favorite in the league between Slap and Wells. I think they do a really good job balancing them out. And then when you talk about Mike St. Green's had a phenomenal season so far. He really has been showing up. DR Sim is just there in the corner of your eye at all times, right? And then you've got Bovine, who seems to be always involved on that offense. So they've really got a complete offense, and their defense is much, much improved over what it's been. So I give them a 9 for sure.
I'll give them an 8 because I like Canton's offensive consistency a little bit more. I think Houston's balance is better, but I think they're 5 out of 12 quarters this season, Houston's offense has disappeared. And so I think that's the concern for Houston, but I'll give them an 8. Final team, DC. What's your for real meter?
I give them an 8. I think that they continued. They picked up right where they left off last season, being in the playoffs. And their coaching staff is doing such a good job, just getting everybody involved. I think Lauren Prococo is always going to be a beast for them. But really, like you saw, like Mason Kirby, right? A huge acquisition coming out of nowhere, and really just getting the ball rolling for them. I think that they can do everything. They can run it. They can pass. They can do everything. Their defense is stout. But I think that out of all of these, I think realistically, I think Canton. It goes Canton, Houston, DC for me. Listen, I know if you're a DC fan, you're probably disliking me right now because you're
that's
like,
fine. They don't want to hear you talk. They'll hear me talk. 9.9. I think DC is the most balanced, complete roster and coach team in the league right now. I give them a 9.9 because they haven't beaten Baltimore in like 80 years. They have to beat them. If they don't beat them, they're not going to win the division because you know Baltimore's going to come back, and they beat Canton last season, right? So they've done that before. They just every time they go up against Baltimore, all of a sudden their defense leaks everywhere, and they can't get stops, and then they can't win the game. So they got to win that big game. But I just DC, that's the one that I go higher on than you, just to mix things up and make things different.
You can't argue any of those 3 teams. There's a case for every single one of those 3 teams.
Right. Can't wait till Canton, DC on the schedule up in the north. All right, back to the highlights as we have just about 13 minutes to go before kickoff of Florida and Fort Worth. Let's go Arizona, Charleston, as John Lakeman hits Honus Adobe wide open for the touchdown, and Charleston was feeling good at this point. 10-6 late in the second quarter. It was 10-9 at the break, but things started to fall apart here. Bismarck Wright with the carry, another excellent rookie in the backfield, this time for Arizona. Teammates love it. Garrison over on the sideline. First down and goal. Atlanta starts to get the offense moving with 4 wide receivers here. That is a wide open touchdown. How does that even happen? I don't know how that happens, but James Hands with the touchdown. 16-10. Arizona takes the lead over Charleston, and Coach Gage loves it. It would continue to grow. The lead, that is, as that pass is caught by Mike Churchill, 23-10, Arizona. This was just a nightmare third quarter for Charleston. After the funniest thing I saw in the chat was it's 23 points now for an opponent, so Charleston's about to lose 23-20 again. No, that's not what happened. As Terrell Davis makes that incredible interception, and then Will Todd, who had over 100 yards, makes it 30-10 Arizona, and that would be the win for the Scorpions. They improve to 2-1. Hey, this game, if you missed this game, this was the most underrated game of the week, because that pass right there was the best pass of week 3. O.J. Bruin to Kingston Ellington. He is ridiculous. And yes, I think that said Vikings. It's supposed to say Kings. I think maybe he's just vicarious. But Kingston Ellington in the back of the end zone makes that touchdown, and Jacksonville goes up 7-0. Right back at it. Colin Pierce rolls. He says, I can throw outside the pocket too. Jeff Banfield, the defender, falls over, and Banfield is Gio gone, and we are tied at 7. 1:51 to go in the first quarter. Wow, Banfield. I didn't know legs could move in those directions. Third down and 9.
I was about to say.
O.J. Bruin, look at him again, scrambling, getting out of the pocket. He is ridiculous. Kingston Ellington. Mike, this is what Jacksonville was missing in the first 2 games. Somebody else other than Connor Weston. Kingston Ellington was a big part of this game today.
Yeah, he really stepped up, and this game was so underrated to watch. Jacksonville really got it going here.
3rd and 1, Dot Williams out of the fullback position. I love it. You can't get 2 tight ends involved, so you might as well put the other tight end at fullback and see what he can do. He moved the chains. Just before the end of the first half, Ryan Roosevelt. Boy, things were getting dicey for Indy. They were out of timeouts, couldn't get tackled in the field of play, perfectly executed, and Roosevelt scores the touchdown. Indy takes the lead. O.J. Bruin on this play gets absolutely hammered by Mac Dre, who had 3 sacks. O.J. Bruin is down. He couldn't finish the game. So the backup comes in, and if earlier in the highlight it was the greatest throw, this may be the greatest catch. Wow. Connor Weston, are you kidding me? Right at the goal line, touchdown Kings. They go up 17-14. Indianapolis on 3rd and goal. Hey, they can't get 3 yards. Whether it's Christian Pierce, Tino Sosa, they're both averaging under 3 yards a carry this season, and they force Indianapolis into a field goal. Shepard Vicarian dives over the top and closes it out 27-17. Jacksonville gets the win. They are 2-1, and that brings us to our receiving leaders in the SFL through 3 weeks. Now, these are only the receivers who have played 3 games. We wanted to give everybody a fair shake. Gabriel Manning is at the top, over 200 yards a game, but we got to see a little bit more on the resume. So of the players that have played 3 games so far this season, Connor Weston leads the league at 129.7 yards per game. That is crazy. Vin Callia and Ryan Roosevelt right behind him. Ivory Irvin and Chris Lee right behind them. But similar to what we saw out of the running backs last week, a little bit more realism in these averages, as last season it was almost impossible to average 100 yards a game, let alone 130, and that's what Connor Weston is doing in Jacksonville. Your thoughts on what we've seen out of the receivers? It's also worth noting Hacker and Minson are also in the top 5. They played their 3rd game tonight on the Monday Night Spectacular.
And let's not forget about Gabriel Manning. He hasn't even played a 3rd game yet.
Right.
So like, and I would be really interested to see what his yards are. But yeah, I mean, all of these, I love the fact that we're seeing receivers with, averaging 100 a game. Like that is it's so great to see. Connor Weston really doing an excellent job for Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, don't look now, but 2-1. I know that they always really good at starting off hot.
Right.
But this Jacksonville team feels a little bit different. I think it feels a little bit different because it seems like they've got the balance. Now they finally, like you said, have somebody else, to take the pressure off of Connor Weston. It seems OJ Bruin's not making crazy, decisions out there. So it's nice to see.
He is. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more of him rolling out in the pocket rather than having to move within the pocket. But still, when he is on the move, he is the best in the business, and he's been really exciting. All right, 7.5 minutes to kick off. We've got O'Neal's X's and O's coming up with Florida and Fort Worth. What a matchup we have in store. Let's take a look at what his keys are. We'll break down some more facts about tonight's game before we get you out to the eye. 6-4 left, down 16-10. Dunhill, they're going to keep it in his hands. Dunhill's pass, caught by Stevens!
Look here, Seattle bringing a lot of pressure. Lakewood flips down, dangerous read out of the backfield. Oh, first count.
As Scar Patterson is going to be sacrificing his body.
Welcome back to X's and O's, guys. Mike ONeal here. We're going to talk Fort Worth first tonight. I've got 2 keys for the matchup. Key number 1, Dunhill has to make good decisions. 3rd and long situation. You guys see Steven Hacker at the top of the screen in the slot right here. And I get it. 3rd and long, you want to get the ball to your best receiver on the field, but watch what happens after the ball is snapped. We're going to freeze it right here. And look how covered up Hacker is. Left side of your screen, that is a wide open receiver. Dunhill has to go here with this football. Florida's not going to fumble this, and Fort Worth gets bailed out here. Talking about what Dunhill can do now, right? Key number 2, Dunhill needs to be an extension of the run game to keep the stout defense honest. Okay, you see Marcus Dunhill, 1st and goal out of the gun right here, and Minnesota was not prepared for Dunhill to be a runner in this snap. So you see him right here. I mean, look at what he's able to do when he gets outside of the pocket. He's statistically one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league. Now let's talk about Florida, right? Split pro formation. Key number 1, draw this Fort Worth defense out in their base defense. Use your receivers to cash in. It's proven to work. At the top of your screen, you're going to see second-year receiver Caleb Giffis right there, okay? You're going to see him after the play is snapped. You're going to see him get bumped about 5 yards into his route, all right? But watch downfield, right, as the play extends, and look right there. Look at the separation. That is what every wide receiver dreams of, and it's a great job by the Florida offense. Key number 2, play aggressive and send pressure out of the nickel, right? Force Dunhill to make mistakes. Split spread formation, right? Look at the linebacker. They're going to send him on a blitz, and watch the left side of this line right there. 2-on-1 situation. Florida's defense gets it done, disrupts the quarterback, and creates a turnover. Florida needs more of this tonight for them to win this ball game.
Nobody works in the car more than Mike ONeal. Great.
I'm sorry. I was hoping nobody would notice, but yeah,
Well,
I was like, I got my
did,
headphones.
but,
I was on my headphones. I'm like, oh, you can hear that car.
Some looks at tonight's matchup. Fort Worth leads the series all-time 2-1. EJ Minson is playing his former team. He just came from Florida, and he's going back. Skippy $4.99 Super Chat. Mia says, let's go Fort Worth. And good night, Cam. Good night, Mia. Florida's first game since January 12th. We talked about that a little bit earlier. 17 days off. Marcus Dunhill, 732 pass yards in the league. That leads the SFL, but he has been mistake-prone. 7 interceptions in the first 2 games. Has to clean that up. And Stephen Hacker is 14 yards away from 13,000. He is 7th all-time in receiving yards. So you've given your keys. We've talked about what's at stake here tonight in tonight's matchup. Mike ONeal, who you got?
Oh man, you're gonna make me. Okay, so
Always.
all right, I'm gonna go with Florida here. I'm gonna go with Florida here, and the only reason I go with Florida is because I think that I know Fort Worth likes to run, a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and I think that Florida's defense out of the nickel, right, and their defense out of the dime is so good at generating pressure. At least in week 1, what we saw. If they carry that in to this game tonight, Fort Worth is going to have a really, really hard time getting the pass game involved, especially whenever you consider how many interceptions Dunhill's thrown this season.
All right, that is Mike ONeal's look at tonight's Monday Night Spectacular between Florida and Fort Worth. Charles Doherty is back with me to call the game. We got to get them hooked up, the stats team hooked up. Tyler Falk and Chris Curtis are back in the studio for halftime and postgame. We've got a full crew for tonight's broadcast, and it should be a great one. It's 1-1 Fort Worth, and it's 1-0 Florida on the Monday Night Spectacular. Thanks for joining us on SFL this week. We'll see you next week. And MNS is right around the corner.